everybody. Welcome back to another awesome episode of the Wealth Preservation Podcast. As always, with my co-host, Mark Seither. Mark, how's it going today, man?
Going great. Looking forward to today's episode. Finally marrying the world of boxing and tech together. So, as we said last episode, we're kicking ass and making SaaS. So, there we go.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we're super excited to have Chad here with Xplicit Fitness. Going to be talking about kicking SaaS all day long, and how SaaS is huge in the boxing business. So we're excited to hear about that. Chad, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. You guys are so cute with your little phrases.
Yeah, we won't be able to let the SaaS thing go.
It's all we have.
Don't, please don't.
It's all we.
Let's make a shirt. Pleasure to be back, guys. Thanks.
Xplicit Fitness, kicking SaaS. Yeah.
Oh, dude.
The tech guys would love that, though.
They would. I know.
They don't have a lot of chances
copyright
to think
that.
They're tough.
Actually, they're probably going to be like, yeah, that one's gotten old.
Yeah.
You guys are obviously not tech.
Yeah. Been going around the office for 12.
Yeah. That's good.
Well, hey, if anyone didn't hear, so if you're jumping into this episode and you didn't hear our first episode with Chad and how he got started, really highly recommend it. Really good story of someone who, again, needed an outlet, right? Needed a creative outlet. Boxing was his outlet. Went through peaks, valleys, the whole 9 yards, and gave up a six-figure career to go get punched in the face repeatedly by people more talented than him, right? So right there, got a screw loose already, but he's really turning into something really stinking awesome. I'm really excited to learn more about it. Chad, can you give everyone a quick snapshot of Xplicit Fitness, the company culture, and what people come to your boutique fitness gym for?
Absolutely. Yeah, Xplicit Fitness is a small group to medium-sized group training. Boutique fitness is how we describe it in the industry. And so we do 40-minute classes. It's a combination of boxing and strength, high intensity in nature, and it's a lot of fun. We've got a bold brand, and we're not politically correct, and everyone seems to come in and have a good time. It's a great community. We track boxing using our patented technology, and it's something that we're turning into a franchise. So it's a fun place, fun outlet. If anybody who's familiar with F45 or Orange Theory or Title Boxing, these are all franchises, and we are looking to compete in that marketplace and be the next big global fitness franchise.
Globo Gym, baby.
Globo.
Yeah. Yes. Don't make me bleed my own blood.
Awesome. So we're just going to take a small step back because we already, in our previous episode, we already got to, you taking on a brick and mortar. Before we dive into, how you built that company culture, the business decisions that worked out well and not well, as well as kount-it, give us a quick snapshot of when you pulled that trigger and you're like, I'm getting a brick and mortar and I'm going to open, yet another gym in San Diego, right? Did you have people next to you who were cheering you on and people next to you who were, saying, hey, maybe not, right? Did you have that kind of two people talking in your ear?
Totally, man. I've always had cheerleaders and always had doubters. And I've always been pretty equally motivated by both. But I've definitely accumulated more doubters in my life than cheerleaders. And I don't blame them because my path has been pretty crazy and I wouldn't recommend it to a lot of people. So, it's a lot of people close to me in my life who are no longer close to me in my life that doubted and second guessed and questioned my path throughout the whole process from inception. And it was tough. It was tough to have that negativity in your ear when you're just so set on a vision and so motivated to go somewhere. I think it was a good lesson in life I had to surround myself by people who were positive influences and supportive, but also knew where to at least question some of my motives and help bring me back in line when I needed it. So good balance of both.
Yeah. Perfect. And so just from a psychology standpoint, I mean, how did you combat some of that negativity that creeps in when, and we'll get into a little bit more where these valleys, came in. But I think for a lot of business owners, when they do experience that first, like, hey, I might have to close up shop, it's almost like all you ever think about is all those people who said those bad things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, holy crap, they're right. Was that a struggle of like, kind of being down the dumps like that, or how did you handle that?
I'm so stubborn. I hate to lose, and I'm one of the poorest sports you'll ever meet. Like if we play ping pong and you whoop me, I'm not happy. I'm not going to pretend like I'm happy, and it's going to take a while to get over it. So, I am fueled off of doubters and naysayers, and I always have been ever since I was a little kid. There were definitely some events in my childhood where unnecessary judgment and doubt and negative speak directed towards me made me feel lost, confused, judged, upset, and I turned that into fuel. It was not healthy as a child, as we discussed in the last episode. A lot of it was aggression, and a lot of it turned to a bad temper and fighting. But I wasn't going to be told what to do or told what I'm doing is wrong when I had what I thought was a good moral compass and didn't think I was doing anything wrong. So it's all been used as fuel. And when I unfortunately, I perform best when I'm at my worst and when my back is against the wall and stress is through the roof. It's a trigger for me to fire on all 8 cylinders. And I wish it wasn't that way. I wish I was that sharp when things are good, but I tend to get complacent when things are good, which I'm trying to change. But it's only when my back is against the wall and I have threat of loss or failure that I actually perform at my best. So it's, I guess, one of my redeeming qualities of very few redeeming qualities.
Yeah. So you're kind of doing the entrepreneur thing, and you kind of, that first gym, how did that work out? And what was the high and then the low that you said you kind of hit?
Yeah. So I started out in my garage, right, which was beautiful. It was fun, low stress, low overhead. And I think that one of the biggest Achilles heels to all companies that decide to expand and grow is that nut every month, that overhead growing. And so once we moved to a brick and mortar and the bills started to pile up, I realized how quickly we were in deep water, and I had to maintain a certain gross income in order to just basically survive. And so as you try and scale a business, and you're, especially when you're bootstrapping it and you don't have funding, you don't have a wealthy family member to help with seed money, you quickly realize that, you can't do it all. Like, am I going to mop the floor, or am I going to pay the janitor $600 a month to mop it for me? And if I do pay them, I've got to work X amount of hours of personal training in order to make up the cost for them to do that. So does it make more sense for me to just mop the floor and stay an extra to it? Like, you end up juggling all of these different things and different finances and different decisions between time and money. And so, that was where the struggle for our company, and the bit of, we would grow, and then I would immediately have to go back to doing those remedial tasks. And then it would take away from us earning and gaining members. And it became this roller coaster because I didn't create systems. I didn't create processes. I'm not a budget guy. I'm not a data-driven guy. I'm a get work done, let's hustle kind of guy. And you gotta learn to marry the two if you're ever going to succeed.
Yeah. So Mark and I love asking this question to entrepreneurs: is what was kind of that first thing that you're like, I have to give this up and I can't do it anymore? Like, or I suck at this, or, I'm not a good janitor, so I need to find someone that can mop better than me, or, accountant. What was kind of that first thing?
Definitely, like, keeping the place tidy was one of them, because keeping a 300 square foot garage tidy, no big deal, right? It takes 20 minutes at the end of the day. But keeping 2 bathrooms clean, dusting windowsills, like window washing, all of a sudden that I have a brick and mortar, that was definitely one of the wake up calls. I didn't have time to do that 2 hours a night, a couple days a week anymore. That was kind of the first real wake up call that I had. I think the second one, as far as like the actual training, like, I love to train people. I love being a personal trainer and being physical. I started to break down. My body started to break down because I was training at a high level, but I was also doing hand pads with clients and sparring with clients. So I ended up developing tendonitis and some issues in my shoulder, and my body physically started to break down. But that was the business model, was being in there with clients and giving them that very tactile experience in the boxing experience to give them such a close experience to fighting without having to get hit in the head. And so I realized that wasn't sustainable. So that was kind of where having my first employee came in. I could pass off all that hard work, and Mark knows this very well. I passed off a lot of the hand pad work to him as well because my body was breaking down. His was nice and fresh. Let's go beat him up. And it allowed me to run the company a little bit better. And so that was kind of my first light bulb to being like, okay, I need to delegate certain things. But unfortunately, it took years later to realize that even that was too much to try and duplicate and replicate. And so creating simplicity throughout the years has really been my focus.
Yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense tying it all together.
No, it does. And it's going to make even more sense when we bring kount-it into it, because that's essentially kount-it as, years worth of that, that nagging the back of your head and just trying to solve that puzzle, right?
Yes. Sure.
It just took a little bit of tech, right?
Yeah. And like we always talk about in market, I have experiences too, is, when you're kind of starting to run your own business, you don't really realize how much goes into it and how much the little things add up and just suck your time out. I mean, these are adding in payroll and HR issues and,
yeah, man.
Start listing them out, right? Like every time you have to go down to this.
Chad had to make HR, by the way. I mean, if you wanna replicate HR, go to Chad.
Go to my I am the HR guy. I fired myself from that job a long time ago.
Yeah, but so what kind of is it about the entrepreneur that we kind of feel like sometimes we're control freaks and we don't want to give some of that stuff up, but how did you kind of come to that point where, like, if I'm going to really do this, I got to give this up. This has to go.
You just nailed it, Josh. I think that's one of the biggest detriments to an entrepreneur is that we want control over everything that we do. That's the whole reason we got into being an entrepreneur. We don't want a boss. We don't want to be told what to do. We want to do it all ourselves because no one does it better than we do it. The truth is that there are a lot of things other people do better than you do, especially when you start getting into the nitty-gritty of running a business. I suck at bookkeeping and despise it. Anything that has to do with math, it brings back PTSD. I hate math. Get it out of my life. But I was there stuck trying to close our month out and do our budget. And I was hating it and then putting it off. And then I'd fall a couple months behind. And now I don't know where the hell we are. So having to give those tasks up to somebody else and be okay with giving that up, but having some oversight, obviously, you don't want people stealing from you. You want things to run smoothly, is a very important and essential step to scaling a business or even being a successful single business. But then you do run into that same issue. It's a time versus money thing. Do I have enough money to hire somebody to give up the time to do that task? And I would say that's probably one of the biggest hurdles for any beginning entrepreneur is finding that tipping point where you have enough income or you earn enough at your specific skill to hire out for the remedial tasks or create a system on the remedial tasks that you can step away from them and focus on what's going to grow and make income in the business.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, because you eventually did get to a point, we touched on it last episode, where you did scale into, you were able to move locations and you had a vision of, hey, I'm going to be a massive complex, right? Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit more about the risk that was taken on there, right? And just kind of the ups and downs of that monster project.
Yeah. Speaking of PTSD, so we were looking to. I was looking to expand double our space. We had 1,900 square feet. I wanted something around like 35 to 4,000. So I found 5,000, of course, and that was what we were going to do because bigger's better. So I thought. The place ended up being 6,200 square feet, but I was only paying for 5. It was a smoking deal. Couldn't pass it up. Had to do it. Better location, more eyesight. Everything you get sold by the leasing agent. And I had this dream, right, that we were going to create what I had worked at in San Luis Obispo. If you hadn't heard that last episode, it was a multiplex. They had racquetball, they had squash, they had a sports area, they had a yoga room. So I was like, hey, we're going to do this, but I'm going to do it better. And that was the goal going into that. So immediately moving into that new space, we had a bunch of rooms to fill. So, okay, let's do yoga. All right, let's do a pound drumming class. Let's do a ballet class. I installed all this stuff, spent all my life savings, went into debt, thinking that we were going to have all of these different services, not even thinking about what that meant from a logistical nightmare of managing people and tying it all together, and more employees and different projects and different modalities of fitness that I had never even touched on. I didn't know what a good yoga class was. So that's kind of what the mess that I then got us into was. I should have all along stuck with the niche, the boutique that I was good at, which it's like business 101, right? Find a niche that you're good at. There's enough people out there that if you're an expert in it, you can be successful. And I went the opposite, thinking that I was Mr. Big Shot and I was going to do everything better than everybody. And it failed miserably.
Because I'm sure there wasn't, failure is an interesting word, right? Because it
Yes.
failed, but what did you take from that you were then able to be like, okay, so now when we shift, here's what I absolutely am going to either take with me, throw away, do better, right? Because that's the upside of the failure.
Yeah. Failure, like you said, is an interesting word, because for a lot of people, failure means it's over and you're done. And for somebody like me, failure is an opportunity for another door to open, and it's an opportunity to learn and grow and do something better, which is super cheesy and cliche. However, it is how I operate, because I hate to fail and I'm a poor sport. So I'm not going to fail because I said so. And that's just the attitude, is I'm going to figure it out. And so really, I was spinning my wheels and we were going over this roller coaster, and I was continuing to do the loop, which is you make a little bit more money, you add something to your business, you invest somewhere, and then you start to lose customers and clientele because attention to detail and your systems break down. And then guess what you're doing? Now you're working back in your business instead of on your business, because it's a systemic failure. And it wasn't until COVID where the lockdown was the blessing in disguise that we needed. It was the hit in the head that I couldn't control. It was getting knocked down on the mat and not being able to beat the 8 count, not because I didn't have the balls to stand up and beat the 8 count. It was because I had no choice. I can't open my doors. This is a worldwide pandemic. There's nothing I can freaking do about it. So I couldn't overcome the challenge with my own grit and determination and getting back into the trenches and mopping the floors and working in the business again. It wasn't going to make a difference. Yeah. So we had to pivot, and it was a forced pivot that made me accept and adopt some technology, because I had denied it. I hate technology. I think if you're looking at your watch, which is telling you how many calories you should burn, and you're not a good athlete and you're not doing enough unless you follow what this technology telling you, it's a complete disconnect from what it means to be human and primal and athletic. Listen to your body, right? But I was forced. We had to go on YouTube. We had to start doing videos. We had to do stuff remote. And I was forced into this corner to adopt and accept and learn a whole different side of business and fitness, essentially, that I didn't want to accept, and I had to. And so we had to close our doors physically. So I had time now. I had to create a 30-minute video once a week for my clients to maintain them. But now I had time to think, what are we doing? Where are we? Instead of being so consumed by our overhead every month and just selling personal training to pay the bills, to pay my staff, to pay the next bill, to pull out of savings, to put back in savings, to try and float. Now I had time to figure this out. Yeah. Sink or swim, legitimately. So that's what happened. We pivoted. We pivoted to online. We created videos, and I realized that what we were doing was not a sustainable model. It was not a scalable model, and I either change it or we're going to go out of business. Yeah. And that was the inception of what we now know as Xplicit Fitness, which is a new brand back to a franchise-able model, a boutique center. Less square footage than we started at. Now we're at 1,400 square foot instead of 62. We have one program instead of 6. We have a bunch of technology instead of none. And we have simplicity in programming and the delivery of our product instead of a artisanal service that you will never be able to do.
Yeah. That's so. I mean, this kind of dovetails off of that, but I want to go back and talk about two things. I want to talk about ego and niche, right?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of talk about how, your kind of ego pushed you, but also almost sunk you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the power of staying in your niche, because they do kind of go hand in hand. You figured that out.
Yeah. I think the ego is one of the biggest killers in small business, large business too, right? Large scale corporations, you get a tyrant of a CEO in position, and they can run a huge Fortune 500 company into the ground if they lead with their ego. There's a big difference between ego and confidence, and
Sure.
I learned this in boxing, but I somehow couldn't apply it to fitness in my business. But having confidence in yourself and your ability to overcome challenges is one thing, but having an ego that blinds you from reality and from what's really actually happening every day is what will keep you in the loop of failure and small success, a little bit of growth, and then taking 2 steps back. And then, so how does that piggyback to the second question? Sorry, I kind of got my train of thought lost there.
Ego and then into niche, because you want to build this big,
Yes.
Ego was like, I got to build it bigger, better. But the niche is really where the power was at, because that's what you were good at, right? That's what people came to you for was, your boxing, right?
Yes.
You gave a great service in that one niche.
Yeah, thanks for pulling me back in there. And I think what happens with people who are ego first or ego driven is your niche isn't enough. Nothing is enough. One business isn't enough. And we were talking right at the beginning, right before we pressed record, about how Mark asked about the coffee roasting company that we started. So we started Xplicit Coffee Roasters, which was great. Everybody loved it. And if we put enough effort and energy into it, it would have grown. But what is that going to do to the other 4 things I'm doing in my life? It's going to distract from what I'm good at and what we should focus on. And so that's where COVID really hit me upside the head. It made me realize that this coffee thing is a stupid idea. It's not something we're going to put the energy and effort into to scale in order to make it profitable. So why the hell are we adding it? Just because I want to say that I have a coffee roasting company, just because it's cool to put slogans out and have everybody talk about how tasty our coffee is? Wake the hell up. And so oftentimes people don't get the wake up call and the business fails, and it's over before they have the realization that they need to have. And again, for us, COVID was a blessing in disguise. The shutdowns were a blessing in disguise. It was finally the knockdown that I couldn't get up from, and I had to figure out a different way.
Yeah. And going back to the last part about niche, and tell me your thoughts on this, but the coffee roasting in itself wasn't a bad idea, right? It's not like you could have done well at it probably if you would have gone down that path, but it didn't mix. You were stretched too thin, right? Chad couldn't be a coffee roaster and a boxing trainer and kick butt at both of them. It just wasn't going to work. You have to pick the one that makes the most sense and go after that one, or dump that one, right?
Exactly. I mean, we hear stories. There are people who are serial entrepreneurs and they can do completely 2 different things, and they make them all a success, and it happens all at the same time, and somehow the planets align. The problem is that's the hustle culture that we're all taught and shown front and center on social media. You get to see The Rock, and you get to see Kevin Hart, and you get to see Oprah Winfrey, and you hear that they're doing a show and a magazine and running for office or doing a new comedy special, and it's all at the same time. Oh, they're doing it, I can do it. The problem is what we've set ourselves up for as a culture, and what we're focusing on, and this comparison culture that's been created through social media and through technology, unfortunately. And the truth of it is that you have to focus your attention somewhere. You can become a jack of all trades, or you can become a master of one. And again, that's another cliche saying, but if you don't master something and focus in on it, there's a very low likelihood that you're going to find success trying to put your hand in a bunch of other things.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to kind of clarify for people too, I mean, you go look at Oprah Winfrey or Kevin Hart or The Rock or these people that do all these things, they have entire staff.
Yeah, I was going to say, they have the team, they have a pretty extensive team that you don't have.
The Rock's not booking his own, late night TV show appearances and Saturday Night Live hosting. Like he just, he's like, what am I doing next? And he has someone, walk over here, do that. I mean,
he's not putting labels on his tequila bottles.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
But there's a tipping point, right? Yeah, there's a tipping point where one thing that most entrepreneurs are, I would venture to say 99% entrepreneurs is they're visionaries. and you have these ideas, and these are fantastic ideas, but they don't have the ability to execute on all their ideas. You have the ability to, in the beginning, especially, to execute on one idea, a couple ideas, because you don't have the time or the resources or the team in order to execute on all of your ideas. So as a first base entrepreneur, let's say, you need to have your one vision, the one niche, the one thing that you know you can be successful at, and put all of your eggs in that basket, all of your effort in that basket, and grow it to the point where you can then hire out and get people to help you grow that even farther. And then to a point, maybe one day you're part of the 0.001% that is a Rock or the Kevin Hart or the Oprahs, that you've scaled to the point where you can legitimately just be the visionary. You can sit at a boardroom table and say, hey, look, I want to start a coffee company. Okay, Sam, Samantha, why don't you guys go make that happen? Do everything that has to do with it. I'll be back next week with a new idea.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like that's the precipice we all want to get to. But the reality is it's a lot less romantic than that. And you can't start calling those shots when you're $2,000 in the hole every month because you can't make rent.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Because Samantha and Mitch don't show up for work next week and they don't make payroll. So
yeah, exactly. And they don't care about your ideas; they just care about the paycheck. So
they can crap.
Yeah,
exactly.
So kind of, COVID was a catalyst to give you a vision for where we're going to take things. But before COVID hit, you had gotten involved with Matrix, and that ended up being a pretty pivotal move for you as well. So tell me a little bit more about your introduction to Matrix and how you got more involved with their team.
Yeah, I at Xplicit Fitness, we got introduced to Matrix because they are always testing and developing new products. For those of you that don't know who Matrix Fitness is, they're the world leader in commercial fitness equipment. They're the top seller, fastest growing. They're all over the world. You go into your local gym, you go into your hotel lobby, exercise room, then you're going to find Matrix equipment almost everywhere. And so they ended up wanting to test one of their products, the S Drive, and it's a performance device. It doesn't necessarily belong in a big box gym. And so they wanted to test it in a boutique fitness center that uses sports performance, which is what we did at Xplicit Fitness. And so by a mutual connection, they tested that product in our club. I ended up giving them a lot of feedback. That's what they wanted. Hey, how does this work? What can we tweak? What can we do better? What don't you like? What do you like? And through that process, we created a relationship. I got hired as a master trainer through them and ended up working trade shows and writing programming and really becoming pretty tight with them. And it really helped my career. It's one of the things I'm most proud of is being a master trainer and content creator for Matrix Fitness.
That's awesome. Yeah. So how did that translate into, doing kount-it, right? I'm saying that right? Kount-it.
Yes.
And then, so COVID kind of happened. So you had Matrix, COVID kind of happens, and you're like, okay, well, I can't scale this because my doors are closed, right? So how do I do the next part?
Yeah. So I was introduced to, there's a master trainer summit every year for the MIs for Matrix Fitness, and it's held in Madison, Wisconsin, which is the United States headquarters for Matrix Fitness. It also happens to be their global R&D department. They have a huge warehouse. All their engineers are in-house, and it's a super cool place. So as MIs, we get an inside look at everything, and we get to test all the new products and get introduced to everything that's going to be coming out in the market in the next couple of years. It's really fun. It's really exciting. So I was at an MI meeting in 2019, right before COVID hit. And one of the things that they brought out, one of their engineers brings out this fabric sheet, and they say, hey, this is called Body Track. We're testing it on a treadmill to measure your gait and how your foot lands on a treadmill, so we can adjust people's shoes, what they should or shouldn't be training, what kind of corrective exercises they may need to do. You can gather all this data. And they said, Chad, we think this may have an application for boxing in the future. Boom, the light bulb goes off. I said, please put me in touch with that company. Fast forward a few conversations with lower level employees. I finagle my way into getting a conversation with Rob Golden, who is the inventor of the sensor mat technology. The parent company is called Patient Tech. And Rob Golden created this very sensitive sensor mat technology in the 80s for a dentist. Who would have thought this guy needed a better way to map somebody's bite? The way of x-raying your bite isn't very accurate, right? You get an external view. You don't get to really see how someone's bite pressure is. And so Rob created this sensor technology to go into the mouth in order to bite. You can actually see how many pounds of force are being applied in the different areas very accurately. That snowballed into him having multiple subsidiaries, multiple multi-million-dollar companies. So I got an opportunity to have a conversation with Rob over the phone. It was supposed to be a 10-minute call. And by the end of the 45 minutes of us speaking, he's fired up. I'm fired up. I gave him the idea of this can be a revolutionary boxing application in the fitness industry. He liked the idea so much that he wanted me to come out to Ohio to meet him in person. So I got a ticket for me and my business partner, Mike, to go meet Rob. It just so happened to fall after a 48-hour trip to Las Vegas. And this goes back to my poor planning skills. So 4 hours of sleep, a meeting hangover later, we're on a flight to Ohio to go meet Rob. On that flight, I get the idea that, hey, instead of just creating a product that we want to sell, why don't we create an entire fitness movement and franchise around this? Instead of just being a boxing bag that you sell where you just track it in place, why don't we create a worldwide connected network behind it? And that was where the idea for Kount-it was born, being a sensor-backed, staffing-free boxing solution that can be a B2B model, SaaS model, or a B2C directly in-home to compete with Peloton. We get there, we have the meeting. I hit Rob with the idea, and he says, well, I thought you were going to come here and sell me on buying and producing a product that we can sell. And now I'm understanding that this is something that we want to sell hardware, licensed software, and do it to corporations, hotel chains, big gyms, small gyms, and possibly bleed into the at-home market. He was so impressed by that end of that conversation, he wanted to create a joint venture with us. And this is the 5th company that he's ever built or made. And we were fortunate enough to be that 5th company among his other companies that some of them are valued up to $50 million. So this was kind of the big grand slam that I had been waiting for in my career, to take my ideas and Xplicit Fitness's modalities and finally get it outside of our walls here in San Diego.
Yeah. I mean, so really you found the way, like anything, you're taking something that people already did, but you're able to scale it now, right? I mean, that's always the big thing in business, is how do you take, not, instead of having 6 people in a class, I can have 6,000 people in a class, right?
Yeah.
Theoretically. Yeah.
I think it's having that idea, right? Of having an idea of what you want to do. I want to scale my services. I want to franchise my business. I want to be more than just a single one-off gym location, and just always having an open mind as to how am I going to do it? And I spun my wheels for years. How am I going to do it? And then once something comes about, what is success? It's when timing and opportunity. How's the saying go? Opportunity meets preparation, right? That's when success comes about. And so I had been prepared to take a challenge and to take a risk, and the opportunity presented itself, and we put it all together, and now we're creating something that's already successful.
Yeah. So you had the idea, right? And obviously Rob was right. His name's Rob.
Yeah, Rob.
Yeah. So Rob was sold. The punching bag didn't exist yet, though. Right.
Correct.
And so what was the process, or maybe some of the struggles, or possibly even like the, okay, well, I guess this can't happen moments of like, okay, like it's in my brain, it looks way easier on Iron Man to just like put those pieces together and have the robots do it behind you. Like, what was that process like?
The failures are too many to even list. And as far as like technical difficulties, like, oh, it's a great mat, it's super versatile, it can do what you want it to do, was the end of that conversation. This mat can do anything, and it sure as hell can, but it's a lot different than standing on it for golf application, or what he ended up growing it to, which was like bed application, medical beds, and now another company for consumers called Rest Bed. And it tracks how you lay down, and it it sees pressure points, and it'll fill your bed with air or loosen it, and it'll alert people in a hospital setting if you're going to be developing a pressure ulcer. So take that same technology and now try to apply it to hard impact, real-time data, instant data coming back, so we can create something where people have something to feed off of immediately while they're working out. You can't have a 20-second delay on your punch, because then you don't know where you're at. So crossing that bridge from it's capable, the technology is capable of doing what you want it, to it actually doing what we have it doing now has been a nightmare. And if it was all me, we would have never done it. But a business partner who's tech savvy, and Rob's company who has a tech department and software engineers that he was able to dedicate to our project, made the whole thing possible. Not that it's been easy.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Do you have any funny stories about like things that just went absolutely off the rails? Like, hey, I punched the bag and it told me that my kicks are soft, right? Just like something where you're just like, this is a nightmare.
Of course. Connectivity in our club. That there was a lot of like internet cafes came and went, right? It was all the hotness, and then it wasn't. Do you know why internet cafes failed miserably? Because nobody had internet, because the internet sucked, and you're on a 56K modem, and everyone's trying to connect, and it was just crap. And so you go in there to connect to the internet, and all you do is drink a coffee and look at a spinning wheel on a computer screen. So fast forward to what we're trying to do, having a network of 17 different wireless devices trying to communicate in the same room created a nightmare. All of that interference was making it so the sensor wasn't communicating with the display screen, and one of them would kick off of the display screen it's supposed to be on and go to the other one. So we went through 3 different expert technology companies who said they could handle our problem, and then day one decided that they could not, and it was beyond their scope. And these are people who are experts with networking specifically. And we finally found a guy who was geeky enough and excited enough to solve our problem that he wouldn't give up, and he figured it out.
Awesome. You're like, and that dude gets a bonus.
Yeah, he's on the team.
He gets an extra beer.
Yeah.
So kind of let's talk about kount-it. And so you have Xplicit Fitness, but where, how are you melding the two together, and then also, I guess branching them out, right? What's kind of the next steps, and what are the hurdles you're overcoming?
The ultimate goal is to create a SaaS model out of kount-it technology, right? If we can sell our hardware and license our software, that's where these corporations become multi-billion-dollar corporations, and you become global. But the chicken and the egg. So we had that problem. We still are working our way through that problem. We have a sensor. We had some basic software developed to show that it works for the application we want it to work for. And so we then immediately put together a pitch deck. We immediately then started to talk to angel investors, this, that, and the other. And everyone's like, hey, great idea. Sounds cool. Does it work? Show me. Hey, that sounds really great. Why don't you talk to me once you're over this first round of funding? We're going to want to get involved once we see that there's some revenue coming in. I mean, the typical, you're trying to raise money for something.
Sure. And
you don't have a product that's already producing revenue. So how are you going to attract a real-time investor that's going to dump a bunch of money? It's too big of a risk at that point. So we've had to make a choice. We thought, hey, maybe this will never happen. How long are we going to attempt to do this great product without having funding to then get the software to the next level, to then apply it, blah, blah, blah. We were able to convince Rob and convince our software guy, if we can just get this next piece of the software functional, we can apply it to our club. And once I told Rob that, look, Rob, we're going to build our entire gym around this technology. If you can just get it to this point so it functions for us, we will be able to prove then that it is a viable technology product that other gyms and businesses and investors are going to want to get involved in, because now they have something to sink their teeth into.
Right.
So Rob did that, and he applied his software team and our tech engineer team to the product enough to get it ready to be functional in our setting in our group fitness classes. It's not all the way there. But it's enough to function to create what we wanted to show that it could do. And it has enhanced our business, and it's changed our model, and it's made Xplicit Fitness now a franchisable model. The product is alive. Right. It's working. And also Mike, my business partner and good friend, I have to tip my hat to him, because he has bootstrapped the applications together to make it look like the app that we're trying to actually get funding for. And the user doesn't know that it's 3 apps layered on top of each other.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So he has made the dream come alive and given the illusion that we have one very smooth functioning app when really in the background it is a hot mess. But it works. And as of yesterday, we had a talk with one of the fastest growing gym chains in the United States. I can't give the information up, but they're one of the largest growing and fastest growing gym chains in the United States. We got on a Zoom call with her. We showed her a demo of the product. She's coming in next week. They want a demo of kount-it technology in their club. And she's already talking about mass producing, adopting it fully, and putting it in every one of their clubs moving forward.
Awesome. That is awesome. Killer stuff, man. That's really cool.
Yeah, that is awesome. And so for our listeners, tell them exactly what, like, if they walk in and there's a kount-it bag, right? What can they go do?
Good question. So we have created a completely staffing-free boxing solution. And so typically in the past, when you wanted a boxing workout, you got to go to a boxing gym, or you got to go to a place that offers boxing training in a class setting or personal training.
Or you can go to downtown Oakland. You can also go there.
You can find someone to box in the street for sure. There's a huge barrier to entry, both for the consumer and for a business. For a business to offer boxing training, they have to have the right staff. They have to have the right training. They have to have the right liability insurance. It's a pain in the butt, which is why it's been so hard to create businesses around boxing or martial arts. And for a consumer, you're intimidated, and maybe you don't want to get another membership on top of your gym membership. So what we have now is a standalone kiosk and software program that when you go up to one of our bags, it says hit me, and you hit it and you immediately see that it's tracking your strikes on the screen. And then it says, do you want to work out? And you can do basic training, which is a total intro to boxing from the ground up. You've never boxed before. It tells you how to stand. It shows hand placement. It warms you up, and it puts you through the basic punches and movements to teach you the basics of boxing enough to where now you can do a boxing workout all on your own. And then we've got workout 1, workout 2, we've got free play. So if you want to do the workout, it shows you how to put your wraps on. It takes you through the warm-up, dynamic warm-up and basic shadow boxing skills. And then we get right into a full-on boxing fitness workout. 2-minute rounds, working skill, rhythm, power, and that's all displayed on the screen. You're following along with a virtual trainer, and now you've got real-time data. Every time you strike, you see the power you're producing. It counts your punches, and then you get a summary at the end to see how you did. Did you hit your goal? If you're a beginner, 400 punches. If you're intermediate, 600 punches. If you're advanced, you try and hit 800 punches in the total workout, whether it's 15, 20 minutes.
That's crazy. Well, that's awesome. Well, I know we're up on some time constraints here, but we're excited about, your success and where kount-it's going, and that's just really cool. And I'm excited to go. I go to hotels a lot, so I'm excited to see the first one at a hotel so I can go punch the crap out of something.
Yeah, man. We're hoping to be getting in with the hospitality industry and also allowing people to get it into the comfort of their own homes eventually too. But keep an eye out, because kount-it is going to be coming to a gym near you very soon.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey, Mark, you want to go into to the speed round?
Yes. So, first question in the speed round. Who has been the biggest influence for you on your professional development?
Biggest influence for professional development is my dad. We talked about in the last episode how his hustle when I was a kid was just something that rubbed off on me, watching him, going to work with him, seeing his no-quit attitude, and just his support over the years in my athletics, my boxing career, my launch into entrepreneurship. I mean, no matter how crazy the idea, no matter how far-fetched or how against the odds I was, whether in sports, fighting, or business, my dad was always there to say, you can do it, you're going to do it, you are the best. Which can be a slippery slope, but it happened to work out in this relationship.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And he is a nice dude. I definitely would want him on my side in a street fight. That's all I'm going to say on that. He's
until he's not.
Well, he's got that I know how to street fight face.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Chad. So, question 2: books or resources you recommend for the aspiring entrepreneurs? Where are you going to get either inspired or just get data or just help? Besides the Wealth Preservation podcast, obviously.
Yeah, you guys are number one. I'm glad you asked that question because I do business coaching now and professional life coaching for people who want to go off on their own and do stuff like this. The most pivotal book I've ever read was right in the middle of COVID, and it made all of this happen. It's called The E-Myth. The author of that book slips my mind right now, but it's short for the entrepreneurial myth. And it's all about creating systems and processes, and it's about creating a franchise model from day one. If you aren't creating a franchise model, regardless of whether you're going to just be in your garage or be a single person bookkeeper, if you're not creating it like McDonald's does in terms of everything is a system and a process, you're a failure before you start. And I wish I would have read that book 10 years ago. Another one is creating a story brand. I believe that's the title. Again, I don't have the author's name offhand, but
Douglas
that
Miller.
one, who is it?
Yeah. Or Donald Miller.
Donald Miller. Yeah.
Yep.
That was an eye opener for me too, because it helps you articulate what you want. It helps you define who you are, your brand, how you want to be presented in the world, how people are going to digest your information, and then how you can then scale and get the word out and be focused on the niche that you're trying to focus on without distracting people, and ultimately confusing yourself in your path.
Which I haven't been keeping accurate count, but I do believe that is the 5th person to bring that up on this podcast. So for our listeners, that should tell you something. That is a good book. We'll actually put that in the show notes as well.
Good. Yeah.
All right. So 2 more questions. So let's see here. You're sitting down. You get to have a drink with one fighter, dead or alive. Who you having a drink with?
Wow. To be honest, at this point, it would be my trainer, Oscar. He was the guy who took me under his wing. He is alive, I think. I think he's still kicking. We've lost touch over the years. I've tried to get a hold of him, and I've been struggling to get a hold of him. But he became like a second father to me, and gave me the confidence and the know-how in boxing to take me where I am. And it was a relationship beyond the relationship with me and my dad, with another father figure type person that it was man love, man. It was a type of love that you don't get outside of blood typically. And I'm forever indebted to him, and I love the guy. So I would love to sit down and reconnect with him.
That's cool. I like that. All right. Last one. You're on Shark Tank. You get offers from all 4 sharks. Who are you going with?
Is his name Damon, the black dude?
Yeah.
Probably him, man. Yeah. He's with it. He loves sports. He's got a sexy brand. I think he would see this vision better, and there would be a lot less friction than most of the other sharks on there. I think he would just be with it, man. And I think we would have a really good business relationship.
I don't know. Barbara seems like a boxer.
Yeah. She's scrappy.
She'll smack you around. Yeah. I don't want to be on the receiving end, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Well, man, hey, Chad, it was so awesome. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Super awesome having you. Again, plug your social media channels one more time. And again, we'll have those in the show notes.
Yeah, man. Thanks, you guys. This has been a blast. You can find Xplicit Fitness at xplicitfitness.com. No E in front, starts with an X. And then also our Instagram handle is Xplicit Fitness, one word. Kount-it is basically in all of that. So our technology company is the premise. You'll see that the sensors being used, the displays on the screen. You can find us there, inquire if you want to get involved. We are looking for more investors for this first round of funding. And we'd love to have able people that are excited and motivated and see the value in what we're producing, and to have a conversation with us. So if not, come in and get a workout.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And lastly, nothing we say can be taken as tax, legal, or financial advice. If you heard anything interesting, please consult a professional first.